guys, welcome back to Ride the Coffee Bean. Today I am working at Langøra Coffee Roastery, and I know there's a pretty cool project in the works, so let's see if we can find out something about that.
Today we are going to find out what it's like to run a small specialty coffee roastery. We'll get to know the people behind it, learn about Norwegian coffee culture, and we'll end with an exciting new project.
I'm Christian, I'm a founder of Langøra Coffee Roastery here in Stjørdal. I used to work as a photographer in Oslo for a newspaper for many years. And with my family we decided to move back to Stjørdal in 2014. And at that time I wanted to set up a business here in my hometown. And I had been into coffee for a long time, so I researched a bit and we managed to get hold of a 1 kilo roaster. And slowly we set up business. Started in my dad's garage, and then we ended up here in Gjelseng. The first year, we just created the brand, collaborated with lots of people, and then slowly getting better at roasting coffee. So, and then we were contacted by the owner of this farm here, and he invited us to set up business here. And shortly after we were established in the stabbur, like a small house from the 1850s. So that was our roastery for the first couple of years. Around 2015, I think in May, we received a roaster from the US, Diedrich roaster. It's the same one that we're still using. So it's almost 8 years now. My interest in coffee started when I lived in the Grünerløkka area in Oslo for many years. And that area is full of good coffee bars and a couple of really nice roasteries. So from being regular at a few of those places, that opened my eyes for specialty coffee. It was when I had some natural processed Ethiopian coffee from Supreme Roastworks. And I think that was maybe the moment I think that, wow, this is something special. And I realized why people are queuing up there for on Sundays. Yeah.
My name is Charlie. I'm a coffee roaster here at Langøra. I've been working with coffee for about, 7, 8 years now at this point. Still consider myself a novice, but I'm learning more and more every day. When I first got into coffee, I was working at the student society in Trondheim. It was like a volunteer position while I was in university. And that's sort of how I first dipped my feet into coffee in a professional sense. I've always had sort of an interest in coffee from a very young age. My parents were very good at sort of introducing it to me early. I still remember I was about 11 or 12, I think, when I made my first pour over. I've realized then later that probably my parents were just very hungover that day and wanted me to make the coffee so they didn't have to get out of bed, but it was still fun for me as a little kid standing there trying to figure out how to pour the water, how to grind the beans. I've always just been interested in flavor. That's sort of the main driving factor for a lot of the things I do. I like to figure out what things taste and how they taste, or sort of why they taste that way. I was very briefly studying chemistry in university, and sort of the chemistry of flavor is very fascinating to me, like sort of which compounds make up things and where you can find those same compounds in different products. Coffee is very, very complex in terms of how many different flavor chemicals and how many flavors you can find. And because it's a fruit, obviously, there's a lot of overlap between sort of coffee and wine and beer and all of these other sort of things that you can go really in depth into.
What are the biggest positives and negatives of running a coffee roastery?
Biggest one, I think it's having a constant supply of great coffee that we enjoy. Employing people, developing the business, seeing on social media that people drink our coffee all over the world.
What are the most negative?
When business is not going too well, I remember the first few years we were struggling a bit to get everything up and running, getting enough customers. But now over the last couple of years, things are going really well. So yeah, it's better times ahead.
So there isn't really a typical day as a coffee roaster, but generally speaking, we show up and sort of try to get an overview of what our customers are looking for, sort of what orders have ticked in. We have a lot of restaurant, hotel, cafe customers who go through a lot of volume. So we try to sort of keep in touch with them, figure out how much coffee they have in stock, and then we fire up the roaster. And generally a day of production will go anywhere from maybe 10 batches up to, we do about 9 batches at a time. So in a day we can roast upwards of 200-300 kilos at most. coffee is roasted. We have people in charge of the packing. Yeah, we do quality control regularly, set up cuppings of the things we've roasted. We always have to sort of keep in touch with which coffees are in season and what our suppliers are offering. We get samples from them, roast them, cup them, sort of pick out where we want to buy our coffee from for the next few months. And that's one of the most exciting parts, is you get to taste so much fantastic coffee from all over the world, all different producers, and sort of figure out and pick the best of the best, and the stuff that sort of aligns with our taste preferences, right? We tend to sort of like the funky, crazy, out there coffees. And then we obviously need a couple more restrained ones to sort of mix in, because you do get a little bit sick of just drinking the crazy anaerobic blah 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 coffees every day.
I don't think I have a special philosophy when it comes to coffee, but I mean, we're working on selecting the coffees that we find interesting, and many people that are working here are really into natural processed coffees and experimental processing, especially the last couple of years. So yeah, we are working a bit to find really coffees that really stand out and bringing them to people. And we're working more and more with maybe long-term relationships with coffee producers. So in the future, we're hoping to travel more and maybe develop those connections further.
We are very laid back, not super uptight about things. We like nature, we like taking it easy. I think we buy some really exceptional coffees, and I think we roast them pretty well. You know, I think the sign of quality should be that when you show up at work, you're excited about what you're going to brew that day to drink, right? And pretty much every day we feel that way. It's like, oh, we just got a new Rwanda and let's put that on brew and see how it's tasting. Or, oh, we got a new Peru. That's exciting. I've been looking forward to that one since we cupped it 3 months ago. Yeah, so I don't know if there's one big thing that necessarily separates us from the other roasteries. I think in general, Norwegian coffee roasteries are really fantastic across the board. So being in the sort of same league, the same category as them, is already a great place to be, you know?
Norwegians are coffee drinking people, and I think you should drink as good coffee as possible. And we want to bring amazing coffee experiences to people that haven't tried these kinds of coffees before, maybe. You have two lines of coffee here in Norway. You have the really urban coffee roasteries that kind of help define the Nordic or Scandinavian coffee roasting culture, many of them based in Oslo. And then you have sort of the emergence of smaller roasteries like ourselves, and maybe seen from the outside, more connected to nature, campfire coffee and those things. I mean, if you maybe see it from through a social media window. But I think people, especially in the rest of Europe, are looking more and more into Scandinavian and Nordic roasteries, and we sell a lot of more and more coffee abroad.
Highest highs of Norwegian and Scandinavian coffee in general are difficult to beat anywhere in the world. I think we're very, very good at light roast. We've been doing it a long time. There's sort of a culture around filter coffee that's very nice in terms of specialty. You don't have that sort of expectation that you're going to get, you know, a dark roast, single shot espresso when you walk into a bar everywhere. People generally drink filter coffee at home, and that's sort of my preferred drink. Scandinavia in general consumes some of the most coffee per capita in the entire world. So it kind of makes sense that we do it pretty well. But I also think that sort of the lows, because so much coffee is consumed, a lot of the time people drink very poor quality coffee for their sort of day-to-day cup. So sort of converting people to specialty when they're already so used to that sort of very dark, very, let's say, subpar cup of coffee at home is a little bit more difficult at times.
Now you're about to open your first coffee shop. How did that come about?
Yeah, we're opening in a couple of weeks actually, a small coffee bar here in Stjørdal. We've been thinking about it for quite a number of years, and now we managed to get hold of a really nice location in an old part of town. So together with some friends, it will be a coffee bar in the daytime and a wine bar at night. So it's a little side project. I mean, Stjørdal is a small place. We don't have many things like this. It's been a lot of things happening here the last 5 or 6 years, so the city center is kind of developing, but there's not much students here or people that kind of give a certain vibe to a city center. So yeah, with this we're hoping to bring in some more life into the town.
Restaurants, cafes, these are not super, let's say, lucrative businesses to be in. Most people who start places do it because they have a passion and they have something they want to accomplish for their own benefit or for the benefit of their community, not necessarily because they're trying to get rich. So I think being able to sort of put your fingerprint into a place a little bit more, I'm happy about the team we've put together. I think together we're going to be able to make something really cool down there. So that's super nice. So we'll see how it goes. Pretty soon now we're opening, so exciting.
The opening day is coming to a close, so we pay a last visit to the coffee shop, making sure that the espresso machine is ready. Today is the opening of the coffee shop, so I'm on my way to be one of the first customers. They have turned the coffee shop into a bright and cozy place. And now I'm going to try some of their brews, starting with an espresso made by Charlie, who's here that day. Thank you! But one coffee is not enough in a single day, so I had to try the cappuccino next. What are your impressions of the first day so far?
I think it went really well. You know, we saw a lot of people, mostly people we know. Yeah, no, it's been a lot of work to get the sort of project to this state, but it feels good to finally be open and serving people. So I think we've gotten a lot of positive comments and feedback, and yeah, it's been really, really nice.
Yeah, cool. So that's a good start.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully keeps going this way.
So if you live near Trondheim or in the region, pay them a visit. They are open every Saturday of the week, and in the day you can have a delicious coffee, and at night you can have some wine and sometimes even some pizza.
What would be your advice to someone who's just starting out in the coffee world?
If you enjoy coffee, find your niche, whether you're a roaster or a barista or just want to work with people.
How would you start getting into it? If you are developing an interest and want to get into it, how do you?
You can give us a call, come here, hang out for a few weeks. Yeah. Well.
Biggest and most important thing I can tell people trying to get started in coffee is always keep your eyes open, always be learning, and always be listening to people who have done it for longer than you have. Not necessarily because they're always right, but just so you can learn how they think, learn what experiences they've gathered over the years. I think, especially these days, there's so much information available on the internet, in books. You really just have to start somewhere and then learn about things that you're interested in. Experience is obviously very important, but the thing that separates the sort of good or mediocre barista from a fantastic one is just their ability to learn their ability to reevaluate the things they think they know. You know, if you learn the perfect V60 recipe and then a year later you figure out a way to do it differently, that doesn't mean that your old way was wrong. It just means that, okay, maybe by changing this, I can improve it in this specific way, and that's going to make it 5% better. So just always be trying to be 5% better at whatever you do, and then eventually the sort of marginal gains aggregate into a bigger improvement. And I think just, yeah, trying to keep your passion alive, however that happens. For me, it sort of comes and goes in waves. Like, it's not always that I'm sitting there after I get home from work for 3 hours reading about the latest barista hustle research paper or whatever. But sometimes it is. And, you know, taking those moments when you want to learn and really diving into it. And then if you're not that into it, then maybe just give it a break, relax, take a step back, and then come back to it fresher.